Right now, there are sixth graders out there who aren't just looking at maps of the world. They are
Mhm.
actively building them. I mean, they're out in their neighborhoods using infrared sensors to track, invisible greenhouse gases.
Yeah, that's wild.
They're mapping the intricate flow of urban trash through storm drains and tracing historical family migrations. Geography just isn't about staring at a dusty, pull-down canvas and memorizing state capitals anymore.
Not at all.
It has basically become this live, interactive operating system for the real world. So, welcome to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we have a single, super fascinating source document detailing something called ESRI's GeoProjects. And our mission for you today is to explore how this specific brand of project-based learning is using maps to completely transform how students and, honestly, how the rest of us interact with the world around them.
Right, and a crucial detail from our source right up front
Mhm.
is that these geoprojects are designed to be entirely uh, ready to use and no login.
Which sounds kind of administrative, right?
It does, but removing that login barrier is actually a massive paradigm shift.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it means getting people immediately hands-on with spatial data without any friction. You don't have to remember a password or create an account. You just open the tool and you are instantly a participant.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the leap from pointing at a static, faded map of the 50 states to, crowdsourcing global environmental data is huge.
It is a big jump.
We really need to look at how a student actually builds that cognitive bridge from just reading a map to creating one.
What's fascinating here is that maps are no longer just static pictures showing you where a physical object is located.
Right.
Through platforms like this, they become dynamic platforms for understanding what is happening in a space and, more importantly, why it matters.
Like turning the map from a noun into a verb.
Exactly. We're turning the map into a verb. But you don't start by handing a 10-year-old a complex data set on global warming.
No, of course not.
You have to start small.
And the source outlines this perfectly. Before getting anywhere near complex environmental science, these projects start at the most fundamental, personal level. They are teaching spatial awareness by mapping things that are deeply personal and emotional to the user.
Yeah, the early grades.
Right. For instance, the document highlights projects targeting grades 4 through 8, like the Global Pet Survey, which literally maps what pets are in which homes.
Which kids love.
Exactly. Then there's mapping favorite color, where
Yeah.
you share your favorite color and explore the favorites of people all around the world.
Yeah.
And a really intriguing one called Mapping a Happy Place. That one asks students from grades 4 through 12 to map a geographic place that makes them happy. Like it could be a park, local pond, or just a garden.
Think about the psychology of that for a moment.
Okay.
You're taking this highly abstract concept of coordinates and longitude and latitude, and you're pinning human emotion to it.
It feels almost like social media, but built on actual geography instead of an algorithmic feed.
That's a great way to put it.
I do have to push back a little on the utility here, though. Like,
Right.
why does it matter where someone in another country likes the color blue or where a kid's happy pond is?
Well,
If I'm trying to teach someone how to read topography or understand borders, isn't mapping joy just sort of a distraction from hard geography?
it's actually the ultimate foundational step for spatial data collection.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if you hand a fourth grader a spreadsheet of topographical coordinates, their eyes are going to glaze over immediately.
Oh, totally. Mine would too.
Right. But if you ask them, where does your golden retriever live? Or where is the exact spot in the park that makes you smile? Yeah. You have suddenly made that data point intensely personal.
Oh, I see.
By making the data about pets, colors, and happiness, it completely lowers the barrier to entry. They're learning that they themselves are data points.
That makes a lot of sense.
They're learning how to input data, how to visualize global trends, and how to read a legend without even realizing they're doing complex math and geography.
Yeah.
I would ask you, listening to this right now, what stands out to you about mapping joy rather than just borders?
It fundamentally shifts your relationship with the globe, doesn't it?
It really does.
You stop being a passive observer of the map and you become an active author. You realize that your life, your preferences, and your pets occupy physical space that can actually be analyzed.
Precisely. You are putting yourself on the board. And once a student understands that they can map their internal feelings and their own household, well, the natural progression is to look out the window.
Which takes us to the next phase detailed in the source. We move from the internal and personal directly to the external physical environment right outside the front door.
The neighborhood.
Yeah, we are talking about auditing the neighborhood.
Once we understand we can map anything, we start tracking how we physically interact with our immediate surroundings. It's a shift from the emotional to the physical and sensory.
And the projects listed here are incredibly creative.
They really are.
There's walkability, which has students in grades 6 through 12 assessing the pedestrian friendliness of their community.
Super important for urban planning.
Definitely. There's also 1-2 tree, where they map their community's trees. And the source makes a specific point that this tree mapping can even be done while indoors, which is a fantastic accessibility feature.
Yeah, so anyone can participate.
Then there's trash cache, tracking how wind, rain, humans, and animals move trash about. And finally, soundscapes, which involves mapping the sounds in the world around you.
That last one is a profound leap in conceptual thinking.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
I look at something like soundscapes, and I have to ask, is a map of sounds really a map?
Yeah.
Or is it just like an audio recording with a geographic pin stuck in it? Structurally, what are we even doing here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's absolutely a map.
Okay.
And it's teaching a critical concept, layered environmental data.
Layered data.
Right. We are so conditioned to think maps only show physical barriers, a mountain, a river, a highway.
Yeah, the stuff you can physically bump into.
Exactly. But a soundscape is a tangible barrier, too.
Oh, interesting.
If a neighborhood is dominated by the sound of heavy industrial traffic versus the sound of native birds, that completely changes human behavior, property values, and wildlife migration.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
By standing on a corner, noting the decibel levels or the types of sounds and mapping them, students are recognizing invisible patterns that literally shape their lives.
I see. It's the same logic with the trash cache project then. The trash doesn't just magically appear on a street corner. The source specifically notes that this project tracks how wind, rain, humans, and animals move the trash.
Think about the mechanics of that. When a student maps where a discarded plastic bottle ends up, they aren't just looking at garbage.
Right.
They're suddenly studying urban planning, fluid dynamics, and environmental flow.
Fluid dynamics from a plastic bottle. That's wild.
Yeah, they have to ask. If the trash started up the hill, what forces moved it here?
So they're piecing together a puzzle.
Exactly. The wind blows this way, the rain flows down this specific drainage gradient, and the trash accumulates in this exact gutter. That is highly sophisticated spatial analysis, completely disguised as picking up litter.
It's like they're putting on a pair of X-ray glasses for their own street. They're seeing the systems underneath the concrete.
But noticing trash and noise is still just using our basic human senses.
True.
To see the truly invisible threats in a neighborhood, these students have to upgrade from their eyes and ears to actual scientific hardware and historical archives.
Which is the perfect way to frame the most rigorous part of the source material. We are moving into mapping the invisible forces, deep science, and historical movements.
Yeah, this is where it gets advanced.
This is where the training wheels come off and the data becomes incredibly rigorous.
This is the progression into rigorous spatial data.
The source details some incredible collaborations here. Through a partner called Voyager Science, there are hosted projects like lichens and SO2. This has students from 6th grade all the way through college exploring lichen growth patterns to better understand local SO2, or sulfur dioxide, air quality.
Using a biological organism as a localized environmental sensor is just a brilliant way to teach biology and geography simultaneously.
I kept thinking of the lichens project as nature's check engine light.
Oh, I love that.
But I actually had to look up why lichens do this because the source just mentions the project name. Like, why are we looking at mossy stuff on trees to measure sulfur dioxide?
It comes down to the unique biology of lichens. They aren't like normal plants. They don't have a root system.
So really?
Yeah, and because they lack roots, they have to absorb all their water and nutrients directly from the atmosphere around them.
Okay, so they're like little sponges.
Exactly. That means if the local air is heavily polluted with a sulfur dioxide, say, from a nearby power plant or heavy vehicle exhaust, the lichens absorb that pollution directly.
Yikes.
They can't filter it out. So they either change color, stop growing, or die off entirely.
Oh.
So when students are mapping where lichens are thriving and where they are dying, they are literally drawing a map of the invisible sulfur dioxide in their community's air.
That is mind-blowing. The absence of a biological organism paints a picture of invisible chemical pollution.
It's powerful stuff.
And that isn't the only air quality project. The source also lists keeping an eye on ozone, which involves monitoring and analyzing tropospheric ozone in the community and learning its health effects on plant and animal life.
We have to make a crucial distinction there for the listener, because when most people hear ozone, they think of the ozone layer high up in the atmosphere that protects us from UV rays.
Right, the good ozone, the one we were worried about getting a hole in.
Exactly. But the source specifies tropospheric ozone. That is ground-level ozone.
Okay, so what's the difference?
Well, it isn't emitted directly into the air. It is actually created by chemical reactions between oxides of nitrogen and volatile organic compounds.
Which means
Basically, when pollutants from cars, power plants, and chemical plants react in the presence of sunlight, they bake into ground-level ozone.
that sounds awful.
It is incredibly harmful. It burns lung tissue in humans and damages plant leaves.
Oh, wow.
By mapping it, students are pinpointing exactly where these invisible chemical reactions are happening in their own backyards.
And it goes even deeper into the invisible gases, too. The source details a project called Global Warming CO2, where 9th through 12th graders help create a student ground-level CO2 map.
Right.
The document explicitly notes that NDIR sensors, mobile or fixed, are welcome to be used here.
Which is a massive technological leap for a high school classroom.
Seriously, I had to dig into what an ADIR sensor actually is because the acronym is just dropped in the text.
Yeah, they don't explain it.
Right, so NDIR stands for non-dispersive infrared. Basically, these sensors shoot an infrared beam through a small tube of ambient air. Because carbon dioxide molecules absorb very specific wavelengths of infrared light, the sensor simply measures how much light makes it to the detector at the other side.
It's a very elegant solution.
Yeah. The less light that makes it through, the more CO2 is in that specific pocket of air.
It is a phenomenal piece of technology.
So what does this all mean? Honestly, reading this, I was just struck by the fact that high school kids are actively generating ground-level CO2 data with infrared light sensors.
It's a whole new world.
I mean, when I was in 9th grade, I was reading about global warming in a textbook that was already like 5 years out of date.
Same here.
I wasn't out in the field with a sensor feeding live granular data into a global map.
This raises an important question about empowerment and education and how we interact with global crises.
Definitely.
We are watching a total transition in how people learn. These students are no longer just observing data handed down by an authority. They have become active citizen scientists.
That's a great term for it.
Think about how empowering it is to take an incredibly abstract, terrifying concept like tropospheric ozone or global warming and give a student the physical tool to map it at ground level.
It makes it real.
It takes the invisible and makes it visible.
Yeah.
You can't fix what you can't see, but if you can map the CO2 levels on your specific block, you understand the science on a visceral, actionable level.
The source also highlights that mapping the invisible isn't restricted to hard science either.
Right.
They are mapping the invisible forces of history and culture, too. Through a collaboration with Ancestry Classroom, there is a project called Family Migration 1950.
That one is fascinating.
Students use the U.S. 1950 census to discover where their family was, which requires a free K-12 Ancestry Classroom account.
Yeah.
And then there's a project called Regional Linguistics for grades 3 through 12, mapping simple language patterns like, what do you call a carbonated beverage?
The diversity of that data is key. With the Ancestry Classroom project, history is no longer a linear timeline in a book.
Right, it's spatial.
It becomes a geographic web. They are mapping human movement across time, looking at census data to see how economic forces or historical events pushed families across state lines.
It brings history to life.
And the regional linguistics project mapping where pop becomes soda or where it becomes Coke.
I'm a soda person, for the record.
That teaches them that culture has physical geography. You are visualizing cultural boundaries that do not exist on any political map, but are fiercely defended by the people who live there.
Oh, absolutely. It proves that literally anything that exists in space, whether it is a lichen, an invisible gas, a 1950s household, or a slang word, can be mapped and analyzed.
Anything and everything.
We have scaled up from the deeply personal happy places to the neighborhood trash flow to the complex science of air quality and historical migration.
And that leads us to the final destination of these GeoProjects.
Okay, where to?
We have to look at how all these hyper-local data points feed into massive global spatial data networks,
Right.
while also, importantly, leaving a little room for the highly niche and quirky side of mapping.
The source details collaborative projects with massive spatial data platforms. We are talking about iNaturalist, where students from grades 6 through 12 explore and contribute biological
A
observations,
huge platform.
and GLO, where they contribute a wide range of environmental data. But then, right next to these massive global environmental ledgers, the sourceless seasonal geoprojects,
This is my favorite part.
specifically one called Mappy Halloween, a frightful exploration of toponymy, where students explore and contribute scary place names.
Toponymy being the formal study of place names, their origins, their meanings, and their use.
I have to say, a frightful exploration of toponymy sounds exactly like the name of a great indie band or maybe a really dense fantasy novel.
It totally does.
But I love that it highlights the quirky, seasonal side of learning. It shows that data science doesn't have to be sterile.
It's a wonderful inclusion because if we synthesize the ultimate value of all these spatial data collaborations, it really comes down to connection.
Connection, how so?
Tools like iNaturalist and GLOBE represent the absolute pinnacle of this journey we have been on today. When a student logs a scary place name for Halloween, or logs a biological observation of a specific bird species in iNaturalist, they're realizing that their tiny, localized observation is part of a massive, shared, global ledger.
That's incredible to think about.
They aren't just doing an assignment for a grade. They are contributing to humanity's collective understanding of the Earth.
Yeah.
Every data point matters.
They're building the map for everyone else. By the way, the source does mention that if anyone wants to explore these tools, the contact info is geoprojects@esrl.com, or you can go to https://esrl.com/geoprojects.
And considering these projects require no logins and are ready to use out of the box, the barrier to contributing to that global ledger has never been lower.
Right.
Anyone can become a spatial data scientist today.
Let's just quickly recap the journey we took today. We started by mapping happy places and pet ownership, using personal emotion to ease into the concept of spatial data.
The emotional foundation.
Exactly. Then we walked outside to track walkability, the canopy cover of community trees, and the invisible barriers of neighborhood soundscapes.
Getting out into the real world.
From there, we scaled up to the hard stuff, using lichens to trap sulfur dioxide, mapping local CO2 with infrared sensors, and diving into 1950 census migrations.
The rigorous science and history.
And finally, we saw how all of this connects to global databases like iNaturalist, with a fun detour into the toponymy of scary place names.
It perfectly illustrates how these tools turn anyone from a passive consumer of geography into an active participant in understanding their world.
So for you listening, we want to leave you with something to think about as you go about the rest of your day. If everyday students can map the invisible flow of windblown trash, the historical paths of 1950s family migrations, and the physical barriers of local neighborhood soundscapes.
Think about your own life.
Exactly. What entirely invisible layer of your own daily routine is just waiting to be mapped right now? And what secrets would that map reveal about how you live?
Once you start looking for those invisible layers, you realize the world is full of data just waiting to be understood.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you see one of those heavy pull-down classroom maps, just remember, the map isn't the canvas anymore.
No, it isn't.
The map is you. We will catch you next time.